Hi and welcome back to the MIDI Helper program. On the previous video, I showed you a quick run around what was going on and pointed out the block here is the MIDI file. And I've explained to you that what some of these other functions do. So we're going to be bold now. On the first one, we're just going to click on the click and check and change button there. And what this is doing, it's analysing this MIDI file. Okay, so it's going to be looking at tempos and times and things like this. The most important one at the moment is it's found the start of a track and the end of a track. It says it's 13 blocks. So that's considered from the M track to the track end. That is a block. Equally well, there's a M track and there'll be an equivalent track end at the end of channel 1 and channel 2 and channel 3, etc. So you can see that it's found the blocks. Now, there's a start and stop of each one, and that's 12 and 3, 9, 4, 6 for the first one. So if we go across to the Excel file 12, that is where that data exists. So the first thing we've done is located the start and stops of every channel. From there, it's now carried out, as this is ticking along, we can see it doing stuff. The first thing I want to do is to convert any velocity 0 and make sure that it's a note off. I also don't want a note on to have a velocity 0, which is quite acceptable in MIDI terms, but for what we want to do, I'm going to convert that so it's all standard. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to force all of the velocities for notes on and off to 127. You don't have to do that, but if you do it and you're playing a piano or animating a piano, the keys will then go fully down. You might want to animate something where you want to use the velocity at different speeds, but for our purposes, for the pianos and drums and things, I'm going to set that to velocity full. The MIDI load program will do that for you also, but this is just to make sure that it does everything right. Okay, so now we've got these first three functions of how many notes it's actually converted, and then it's found out how many par ons and offs there are. They don't actually match, interestingly enough, but the note on and the note off do match. They are actually, it's gone through the whole file and made sure they are both equal. Just a quick check of what's going on there. So here is the time we kicked off, and it's taken just over a minute for that to do what it wants to do. It's found the tempo. Now you can get multiple tempos in there, changing as it goes through the program. So what I've done for now, this is just a bit of an ongoing thing on this program that I'm building at the moment, where that's the actual time in milliseconds, real time, and then that would obviously change as it goes through the MIDI file itself. So that's something that I'm going to be using in the future. So if the tempo range is okay, well, that's actually checked. What I found with some MIDI files when I did it, that the tempos came up and then they had a timing in there that was ridiculous. It didn't actually, it was over this end one. So there was a number of times when the tempo was over the limit. So I've made it find that for us. You can actually delete the ones you don't want after that, I would assume. I assume what he's done the MIDI file, then played with the tempo button or something while it was still ticking. But either way, that can cause you some problems. So that's one of the things it's checking out anyway. Now going across here, these are the notes on and off. Okay, so it's now gone through all those files, and any note on and note off that was in the same time period, it's moved it by an amount. Now, in the default state, that amount will be equal to 1. So over here, I've got to move this value by 1. So if it sees a note on and a note on in the same timestamp, it will move one of them by 1. We want all the notes on and all the notes off to be in their own timestamp, preferably. Otherwise, we could end up with them both colliding with each other. So that's what this first function is taking care of. Now in here, this is the track start and stops. I've also pulled out the voices for the drum in particular, because the next problem we find is the note on and the note off in the drum are too close together for animation. So these are the notes, and in my particular keyboard, which I'll put into this program, these are the voices that would be on the drum kit. Now, the next line here is the minimum values it has found. So as it's gone through the MIDI file, it's looked at a note on say, the note 25 there. It's looked for the next note on, and then it's calculated the timing, MIDI timing between the two. And as it's gone through the file, it's found the minimum value. Okay, so this is something that we can see later on. Now it's also over here, put the data out in, so you've got N25, the brush tab. These are the note on times, and these are the differences between those notes on. Okay. Now, if we go down using the up and down button, we can see that it found a note 72 and a 72 there, note on and off. They're both velocity zeros, both offs, in the same timestamp. So it's moved it by one. And because it's doing all four, there are various different things it finds on the way through. So if we zoom down quite quickly, I'll go over here and we zoom down to 12 for argument's sake, or it's 16 even there, you can start to see that's an off and an on it's found, it's moved it by one. An off and an on, it's moved by one there. So as it finds them in the same timestamp, it starts to move them. Okay. Bearing in mind that this one is the same note that it's moved, you could have, like here, that and that are in the same timestamp as an off and an on, and you can do that as well. So, but at the moment, we're going to leave that as is. And this is where this function comes in, where you've got a different note that you want to move. But we've come on to some better ways of taking care of some issues there using these other functions. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment. That's when we've used the check and change button, and it's moved all those notes are in the same place there and put them into a different timestamp for us. So that's where I'm going to end this next video. And I'll see you hopefully in the next one.